Allting finns i den sagolika filmen. Allvaret, komiken, komedin, farsen, tragedin, vardagsnaturalismen, hemlighetsfullheten. Det var ett oerhört rikt material.
This was a kind of different story told by Mr. Bergman, a light story. But I couldn't dream of this tremendous success all over the world.
This was a new Bergman film, you can say, melting together all the old Bergman film. It has a big portion of humor and love and like everything you want in a great movie.
This film was a film about love and friends and family. I think coming back for Ingmar was also coming back to the family of the film industry in a way, and all the actors. And everybody has waited for him to come back. So he was in a very secure harbor in a way. And all made the best because he'd said that this was his last feature film. So it was a kind of enormous goodbye.
It so happens that I visited Ingmar in Munich a couple of times because we had known each other since the 50s. And, Ingmar was in exile, sort of. And then one evening when we had dinner in his apartment, he told me that he has a script which is impossible to produce, that he had been in touch with several of his producer friends in Europe and the United States, and they say that they don't get enough money for that. I told him that I will arrange for it under one condition, that he makes it in Stockholm or in Swedish. But he didn't immediately accept those conditions because he said that there are no craftsmen in Sweden able to do all the costumes and whatever, and interiors and studio things and so on. I tried to convince him that those craftsmen exist. It took a while, but at the end he accepted it.
In 1980, it must have been, we were shooting a last day of another film in his company. And then he called and said, yes, we have the money. So I had 3 days to prepare, and then I went to the island and we started to count. I mean, how many days and what actors, and we were sitting one night up till 2 or 3 in the morning, and it was great. It was great fun to do that with him.
But for me, of course, it was a sort of adventure because I was then a bureaucrat. I was head of the Swedish Film Institute, and I knew already when we talked that this film would cost more than most Swedish films.
Jörn Donner was the producer and the executive producer, you would call him, because he was really the one who got the money together. And that was quite a long process because he went to Gaumont in France and to Channel 4, I think it was. I don't remember, but it was a lot of different sources because at that time this was a very expensive production, especially for Swedish standards.
Det var ett stort arbete. Och Ingmar har gjort de flesta av sina filmer på ungefär 38 inspelningsdagar. Här var det 7 månader. Och det var mycket folk och mycket scener och mycket dekorationer och mycket kläder och mycket musik och mycket av allting alltså.
It was really a year, almost a year pre-production, which is a lot here. And the first person to engage was Anna Asp, who had been with us doing some things for Bergman and for other directors that we used, that we made film with in Bergman's company.
When I got the question if I would like to work with Bergman on this Fan and Alexander, I was very, very amused about it. And I ran over to my neighbors and told them, I'm going to do this Fan and Alexander film. And I was so happy. It was such a big thing for me. And I was only, at that time, 34 years old, and I had my 2 small kids, and I worked hard, and it was hard. But I was very, very happy to get the job.
First of all, we didn't think we could do it in Sweden, all of it, you see. So we looked at Bavaria and we looked at Danish film studios, and he even didn't think that he could do the locations in Sweden. But we ended up in Uppsala, of course. And also we had 2 studios. It was the Film Institute and Europa Studios.
The grandmother's apartment and, if I say Jarl Kulle's apartment, and Fan and Alexander's mother and father, and Börje Ahlstedt, who is married to the German lady. It's always the same set, just repainted. That was our goal, to make it just in Sweden.
We test everything on film. At that time, a 60mm film. We had a little studio in the Film Institute, the smallest one, that was rigged for testing with grey wallpaper up till the last week. Of all those weeks, there was a special cameraman, and we tested everything. Wallpaper, paint, material, to cloth, everything. No surprises.
It was also very good planned, this film, because I had a crew, 2 prop masters and 2 assistants. I always make models when I work, and I put the color into the model, and then I do drawings from the model, and we furnished it also in the model with pictures, and we had half a year to prepare before we started to shoot, and that was great. In one way, we worked very close with the sets, Bergman and I, but kind of in a distance. He was very involved in the color. I tried to get a single word on every set, and that the sets communicate in the same way as the actors, so it helps the drama to be told. So this old lady, the grandmother, Bergman said that her sleeping room must be as a woman's womb. So we made it with different red colors, and it became more and more smooth and thin colors. The bishop's house was a big nut to solve. I mean, to make it in a way so it was scary, and also a man who lives for the church. It took me a long time before I understood how to make it. And I was on the airplane from Munich to Stockholm, and I watched in a magazine, and I saw a castle. And then I knew, this is the way. And then I went to the castle where an old king was prisoned in the basement. And they poisoned him with pea soup. And that is the Bible for the bishop's house. I mean, the prisoner, it's a cell, like a prison. Marek Foss and we worked very, very close together. We sat together, and I have started before her in advance. So she came and she adjusted her costume colors into the sets. And that was, I mean, she did a great work. She was wonderful to work with.
I was in the middle of being a mother when he called me. And I had my first child, and she was 1 year. And it was, rather messy with diapers and food everywhere and chaotic. And all of a sudden the phone called, and I had Mr. Bergman on the line. So it was kind of strange in this mess.
Eva Fröling was a big name in Sweden. I mean, everybody knew about her, so that wasn't so difficult. And there was a discussion about Liv Ullmann, but she said no, because she had other engagements. So then it was Eva Fröling, but that was not difficult. I mean, she was a big name here.
Actually, I don't know how I got the role, because it's a little kind of mysterium. Because I was still in the drama school. There was messages. Pernilla Kohl, cinematograph. Katinka Farago. I was like, why? So I called her, and she said to me, please come up to Floragatan. And so I came up to her office. And she just told me, and this was this thick script. She gave the script to me. Look at the script. This is Ingmar Bergman wants you to play this role. The role is Mai. And I was like, my God, what did I get? So I just got it. It was like from heaven.
From 9 years old, I was in a music school here in Stockholm. And Lasse Hallström, the Swedish director, was making a film where he wanted a school class to sing. And for some reason unknown to me, he chose my class. Bergman saw this film and thought I was interesting perhaps for this part as Alexander. So they contacted me and asked if I wanted to do tests.
I was in charge of the test screenings of the kid actors. So I was a hunter. And you know, when you have two big parts like Fanny and Alexander, you have to be sure 110% that they can do the job. Not the first day, not the first week, even the 6th, the 10th, the 20th week. So it's a very... you have to be very careful when you test.
The director present there, Peter Schilt, he was my father. He was supposed to be my father, and I was supposed to leave the room and come back and confess something bad to him, something bad that I'd done. And when I came back into the room, I confessed to him that, well, you know, Granddaddy's here. He said. And so I explained to him that I'd been waiting out in the corridor, and when Granddaddy came by, I jumped out from behind the door and shouted, "Boo!" And now Granddaddy was lying out there in the corridor, and he was dead. So, and that's, I don't know, maybe that's the kind of morbid sense of humor that Bergman appreciated in an 11-year-old. And finally I got the part.
In the script, he's writing about the character in a way that you just got the sense of this woman, how she smells, how she looks. And he described Mai. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. I think he's talking about she's smelling like clean cotton and sweat. And it was so beautiful. I remembered, oh God, I know exactly how she is. Because you know the sense of how she's so sensitive and so human in a way. And that's so beautiful. So you get the key, you get I mean, he's like Christmas Father sometimes, just giving you presents. He's just giving you the keys and giving you, so you understand it. You got the character in a way.
It was a fantastic script. It was not a script just, you know, it was more like a book. with all things comes together, from sight of people to smells and atmosphere and everything.
With a film as rich in details as Fanny and Alexander, with a main story which concerns this the children and the bishop and the wife, the widow, and this family. It's like a tapestry. In the sense it was, of course, new territory. It's more epic.
So we had a big discussion about how should we start. What would be the first scene to do in Fanny and Alexander? So we decided to do the war with the cushions, pillows. He had an idea that you should always start with something technically complicated, not human, the biggest human scenes. And the children, they loved him immediately. And they made fun of him because they didn't have the respect that everybody has. So they made jokes with him, and he loved that.
The first time I met him was actually the first day of shooting. And I was like, I was so nervous. But it was so wonderful because the first scene we did was the war with the pillows.
Bang pillows on each other's head and until one pillow explodes and there are little feathers all over the room. And that's the scene we did the first day. And the first thing we did in the morning when we got there and everybody was a little bit nervous, not knowing each other, with Ingmar we started to run around the room and hit each other with pillows, rehearsing the scene. And he would be in the middle of that and we would all bang pillows up on him and we had a great time.
It's so intelligent to start up with a scene like that. So all my nerves and everything went out, so it was really good.
Ni startar alltså där. Jag vet inte om ni startar exakt på min början, ni kanske får starta lite senare. Det ska vi...
Peter Schilt, he was the assistant director. And when we shot the funeral in Uppsala, when they come out from the church, Bergman was ill, so Peter was directing that part. And he did that very good, and he is a successful director today.
At that time, I was actor and director, and had made several films for Swedish television. And when Bergman worked for the first time in his life abroad in Munich, in Germany, he had, for the first time in his life, worked with the assistant director in the way you do in the States. We didn't have that kind of work here. An assistant director, it could be a friend of the director, someone is making coffee or something, but the international way of being an assistant director is a very special work.
He was the communication between Bergman and all the questions that the team had, and also came up with the good ideas. He was always on Bergman's side.
It was well prepared by him, and we had been on the spots and locations, and everything was very well prepared. But we had this funeral scene with, I don't know how many hundreds of extras, but I mean it's not so difficult. It's more like being a military officer. Then it can be harder to make a scene between two persons.
To work with Fanny and Alexander, the kids, they were so professional. They were working every day, long days, and they had their school as well. But They were very, very professional, and they loved it.
I didn't read the script. Ingmar explicitly said he didn't want me to read the script. My mother read it, and my father, but he explicitly said he didn't want me to have an idea of my own about this boy Alexander. So I just accepted things the way they came, and each day Bergman would he would take me aside, and sometimes he would have to remind me, that's your father. Oh yeah, that's him. That's right. Okay. And that's your mother. But he's dead now. Oh, he's dead? He was alive yesterday. Yeah, but today he's dead. Okay, I see.
Ingmar hade ju har haft en ganska speciell relation till barn som har funnits med i hans filmer. Fan Alexander går han plötsligt in i sin erfarenhet av sig själv som barn. När han rör sig i de här hemlighetsfulla mormorens hus och allt det här som rör barnen i filmen. Och de har han också i hand. Han kan ju vara väldigt krävande och häftig, Ingmar, men han var väldigt ömsint om de här barnen.
He didn't give me any explanations of Alexander's psychology or his feelings in general. He would talk to me about a specific concrete scene, and he would say, in this scene you're really angry, you really don't like this man. And he was very precise in what he wanted, and he was very precise with us, and he was very precise with the adults as well. He had a very good idea what kind of scene he wanted to create.
To work with Bergman is, as all the actors also says, he trusts you and he encourages you to do your best. And everybody has that feeling that he's so clever to keep the team together and to encourage everyone so they are better than they really are in his films.
It is always very hard to describe his way of directing. I've been trying to do it. I've been trying to answer that question for 20 years. When we did the scene when she got the blue dress, and I read it in the script, and it says she's dancing around, and I felt, come on, God, how can I do this? I can never do this. I can never do it. Because it felt so big. And then when we did it, I remember after, it was like, is it done? I just had fun, and I didn't have time to think about it. So he made me feel so good, and I think that's the secret with him.
His presence makes you concentrate on your part and your work, and you just stay together when he's with you. He's just with you. I mean, you don't have to talk a lot. You just give him the part by concentration, I think. And you will really give your best.
Jag tror eller vet att det var att komma tillbaka till Sverige, det var för honom väldigt mycket att komma tillbaka till skådespelarna. Ingmar är väldigt noga med att framhålla den sanningen, nämligen att han älskar skådespelarna. Därför han har varit beskylld för att vara helt hård ibland och straffande och aggressiv. Och de sidorna finns väl också, men framförallt så är han väldigt festlig skådespelare. Och här hade han med i Fan Alexander en stor grupp av svenska skådespelare som han hade haft att göra med och ville ha att göra med. Samtidigt som han hade med sig de tekniker som han hade arbetat med alltid. När han var utomlands så hade han ju sin närmaste medarbetare Sven Nykvist med sig. Det intima samarbetet med Sven Nykvist gjorde att de för skådespelarna blev ett så härligt par. De kompletterade varandra inför skådespelarna, på Sven med sin kamera och Ingmar med sin blotta närvaro. Så vi fick en sorts koncentration. De lyckades åstadkomma en sån koncentration kring sig själva. Sin ambition, sin uppfinningsrikedom och sin glädje.
Sometimes you can see the relation between Sven Nykvist, the photographer, and Ingmar Bergman, like the relationship with two 5-year-old boys. And some days they were much loving to each other. It was a very professional relation. Not cold. I don't mean that, but he knows what to do, and he knows what to do. If you know exactly what to do and why, you don't need to speak and talk too much. You just do it.
Bergman told that when he was a child, there was a man, the Jewish man, who had owned an antique shop in Uppsala. And it was scary to watch into the windows, and he was in his rocking chair there, and it was such strange things in his shop.
Och jag fann ju till min oerhörda glädje att när jag skulle göra den här Isaac Jacobi, den gamla judiska antikvitetshandeln i Fanny Alexander, så fanns minnet i kroppen på mig utav tidigare generationer utav judar. Och jag utgick därifrån när jag gjorde rollen från att servera en slags kliché av det judiska, för att sen avslöja att bakom det låg en mångsidig, mystisk, tragisk upplevelse av verkligheten så som den hade närmat sig de judiska människorna, och de judiska människorna hade närmat sig verkligheten. Det var ju en förtjusande roll därför att jag fick spela mot Gun Wollgren som var ett geni och som gjorde Helena i den, och vi hade scener tillsammans. Det var oförglömligt, och de blev också, jag kan se det, väldigt bra. Hon är storartad i filmen.
Gun Wollgren was one of our greatest actresses. And she was in the theatre, of course, and in the Royal Dramatic Theatre. She was very ill when we did Fanny and Alexander, and I didn't know that in the beginning. She had cancer. And she was some days she was in great pain. She never showed that. And she was really a great actress. And I think the things she does in Fanny and Alexander with Erland Josephson, for example, that scene at night on Christmas Eve, I think she was absolutely wonderful.
Förra året tyckte jag det var roligt med julen. I år vill jag bara gråta. Antagligen håller jag på att bli gammal. Tycker du att jag har blivit gammal, Isak?
Du har blivit äldre, det har du.
Jaha, tänkte väl det.
Jan Malmsjö sometimes it was difficult to play with him because I liked him very much, and in the scenes I was supposed to dislike him, and I liked him very much already before we met because he also sings, and he recorded once a song, Puff the Magic Dragon, da 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 dee. And when I was when we lived in Madrid when I was 4 or 5 years old, this was my favorite song, and so I liked him very much from the beginning.
Jag är nämligen mycket starkare än du.
Det betvivlar jag inte alls.
Jag menar andligen starkare. Därför att jag har sanningen och rättvisan på min sida.
I was very impressed of Pernilla August because I knew that she was coming out from school directly. And it was also very impressing in the work with Jarl Kulle.
Oh, he was so sweet, Jarl Kulle. I think it was hard for him too to make this scene with this young girl. And when we were going to do the love scene, he was so sweet. He came to me with a photo of him because he was really the big lover on screen. He was the big star in the 50s and in the 60s. And he came to me and showed me the photo, how he looked before, so you can see how I looked before, because I think he felt so old.
You know, the speech of Jarl Kulle in the end of the film, that was a big scene, because in the same scene, all the actors, I think 20 actors, were sitting around a round table, and the camera was in the middle, and, you know, just to put on the wigs and makeup and clothes for every one of these took much time. And when everything was prepared, all the actors sat around, the camera was clear, the lighting, the sound, everything. Then I went up to Jarl Kulle's dressing room and said, okay, Jarl, it's ready. Come on down. And he came in, and Bergman did the blocking, as you say, and then put on the camera. And Kulle, he didn't stumble a word in the text, and he did it exactly, okay? Because Kulle was a professional.
Helena Victoria, eller lilla Aurora. Så kommer det att bli. Därför finns det anledning att vara lycklig när man är lycklig.
The desert walk, as we called it, that was something that was not solved from the beginning, and it was difficult.
In the long version, there is a scene in the desert during the dream, the storytelling. I went to Spain to find a desert for him. And for 10 days I was driving with my husband the most terrible roads, up and down, up and down. And we found a dry flood or river. Wonderful. And we came back and showed him the pictures, and it was wonderful. And I knew that we were never going to go to Spain to shoot that river with 1,000 extras. So in the end of the shoot, I said to him one day, I'm sorry, but I don't have the money to go to Spain. Oh, what a pity, he said. It's a big drama. And we are playing, we both know that we're playing, but nobody says it, you see. I have to think of something else. Yes, you do that. So he goes home over the weekend and comes back Monday and says, yes, I have solved the problem. You don't have to worry. The only thing we have to do is 400 extras in rugs, almost naked, and the 2 studios that are together, you can open in between in the film house. Empty the studio and I'll fix it. Fine. And we set the date. So we opened the studio doors out to this corridor that is outside the studio, and the camera in the end of one studio, and sand on the floor. One old vacuum cleaner that somehow the electricians did, so it was blowing backwards, blowing this sand in front of the camera, and these 400 people coming against the camera, running out in the corridor, running back and coming in through the next door to the camera. That was our Spanish desert scene.
Once there was someone asking Ingmar of this kind of strange moment when Erland Josephson, as is you in the movie, takes the children in the coffin, and they all of a sudden just disappear. And that didn't make sense, and everybody was asking about this scene, and they wanted to have, a straight answer that we could buy as human beings. And Ingmar said, well, this is one of those, marks in life that you should have.
När det gäller att övertyga publiken om de magiska krafterna hos konstnärerna så bygger det på den kraft han har av den här upplevelsen. Jag tror att det är en existentiell upplevelse för honom i barndomen Där att man bemästrar verkligheten genom fantasin. Man flyr in i fantasin eller man låter fantasin besegra verkligheten och göra den hanterlig. Skräckfull kanske, men på något sätt ändå genom att man kan beskriva den så finns den där som en verklighet.
The reception was fantastic. I mean, everywhere. It has really... I haven't heard anyone or read anything negative about that film. Everybody seemed to love it very, very much. Got 4 Oscars. For dress, costume, art direction, camera, and best foreign film. So it was a great evening.
I heard on the radio one morning that Fanon Alexander was nominated for 4 Oscars. And I was in the car on my way to the film house to work with another film. And when I came there, they told me it was me. And I didn't understand that. I didn't know that. I thought it was the actors. And so it was overwhelming. It was unbelievable. It was, and it still is. It's crazy. I think I go home and look at my golden boy there. It's very fun.
Professionally, Bergman is the most humble man I have ever heard of or seen. Of course he worries, especially being the one he is, where everybody is waiting that he would fail and not be so good and not be, I mean, every day. That's why he stopped filming. Because in the theater he can be not so good one day, not so talented one day, and come back the next day on rehearsals. But you can't do that on film.
Well, I really learned one thing, that even if you made, I think he had made 45 movies and 200 theater plays or something, even then you don't know, should this be good, should people like it? And that was a great gift for me, to know. It has to be like that. The day you say, okay, I know exactly what this is going to be, I know, then you're finished.
It was like a long feast with not a sad ending in a way, even that everybody talked about that this should be Bergman's last production. It was a happy ending.
Det var intressant för däremellan kommer fasta. Och det var intressant för däremellan kommer fasta.